Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 9th day of December 2025. It is the Independence Day in Tanzania, but different measures have been taken to contain the peace in that country, but you're also pursuing to see what happens as they go through that difficult situation at this point in time. So should we still say Happy Independence Day to Tanzania? I think it's justice to do so. This morning we're waking up to the dailies revealed how to get top senior school slots is the main story that is on the Daily Nation. The Standard is talking about the ID scandal and talking about that decision that was made by the president to remove the strict vetting that was of persons before they are registered with IDs in some border counties. To just facilitate them, but now the story is showing that there are challenges that citizenship might be for sale. And so much more stories that you'll find inside the papers. This morning I have Dr. Makali Mulu, who is the Member of Parliament for Kitui Central Constituency. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, good morning.
How have you been?
Doing well, Sam.
I saw you at an event yesterday.
Yes.
But I think we'll talk a bit about that because the people have audited the economy and some of the policies that are being implemented. We have Hesbon Omolo, who is an FCPA but also an economist. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you're expecting the arrival of Diana Gishengo, who is in the building. She is the Executive Director at the Institute of Social Accountability. We are hoping to have Gladys Bose, who is the Deputy Speaker at the National Assembly. She has sent her apologies this morning, saying that she's unable to make it after challenges traveling back to Nairobi. But the show continues. And you might have seen the conversation that has refused to go, and that is on the proposed sale of Safaricom stake, or the government of Kenya's stake in Safaricom. Everyone is doing their own calculations. The Ministry of the National Treasury has said that the cost of this money is 5.6%, at least for the advance discount, because we are going to receive 40.2 billion shillings, and we will repay, or rather, the dividends that will come will be up to 55.7 billion shillings. So there's that difference of about 15.5 billion shillings. So the argument has been about what percentage is this, and different quarters are doing different math, and no one is agreeing with the other. But there's the substantive question of whether this is the way to go, and I think I want to bring you on board, Hesbon Omolo, to just have a say on what we're witnessing with this conversation.
Thank you, Sam, and good morning, Kenyans. The conversation around Safaricom sale of a government stake of 15% has come out to be an emotive one. Of course, the conversation around our sovereign wealth fund and how we can fund our development going forward, given that we already acknowledge that we are more or less in a debt distress space, is something that is worth talking about. And looking at other jurisdictions that have been able to go that route, we have, I think, Botswana, that have leveraged on their diamond wealth to be able to have a sovereign wealth fund. We've had countries such as Singapore that have gone that route as well. So it's not a bad direction for Kenya to take. However, what is the value of Kenya's investment in Safaricom as we speak today? It is very difficult to get an objective position because, one, if you go to the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the dominant player there is Safaricom. And that dominance is pegged on 25% of the worth of Safaricom. So there's a whopping 75% that is at the back end. So the assumption, even as it is now, that the market share for Safaricom is based on what is trading the NSE. With any other investor that is there, underscore certain things. And therefore, it's possible to have either, based on the market sentiments and based on Safaricom's dominance, there could be a distortion of the price there. But that is besides the point. If you look at the latest audited financial reports for Safaricom, it talks of a balance sheet of about 600 B, but if you do the valuation based on the market share, it comes about 1.12 trillion to about 1.3, which on a fair slate that would be okay. but there are certain assumptions, especially what is it that is out there about Safaricom. Then you need to look at which is the best way to value the institution. Perhaps the discounted cash flow method is the best way to value Safaricom. If you were to go just all out and use that method, you'll probably arrive at close between 28 to 32 or 33 shillings per share based on discounted cash flow method. And you can run through the financial reports of 2025, March, that was audited, go backwards. So I think that is part of the conversation that we need to look at. But then, what is the outright stake that you mentioned as government investment in Safaricom? Let's say it's about slightly less than 400 billion. If you take out 15% of that, how much has this investment been earning the country? It's about 16 billion or thereabout, close to less than 20 billion a year. So the question then would be, as a country, what is the cost of funding this government? We borrow externally or borrow internally. Our domestic borrowing has been at an average of almost 10%, because 80% of our domestic borrowing is in bonds, and bonds are expensive because they're long-term. 20% is about treasury bills, which is now trading at about 8% or below a single digit. So the question then is, if we are borrowing at an average of about, give or take 10% or slightly more domestically, would then an offloading of shares worth, give or take 200 billion or 240B, be good investment looking into the future? So I think there's an argument that you can advance that there is a good aspect of it if it's applied appropriately, but there's also the issue of timing. Do we have the right legislation to anchor how this fund is supposed to be utilized? As it is now, what is the position of the PFM Act? What is the position of the consolidated fund in terms of receiving these funds and ensuring that they're in the right space and the disbursement? So the infrastructure around which this expenditure and this setup of the sovereign wealth fund is involved needs to be in place ahead of this process. Before
the actual transaction is completed.
That's how I look at it.
Okay. Interesting, because you're saying now discounted cash flow method. Which cash flow figure are you using?
I could look at several aspects of it. Of course, when you use discounted cash flow method, you look at, for example, what is the expected earnings that Safaricom would get over, for example, a 10-year period, and then what is that value today, and what is the overall earning that Safaricom would get in its lifetime.
No, I'm asking that question for the sake of the viewer, because yesterday we also had a panelist who was talking about expected revenue flow, and he arrived at a totally different figure from yours. I'm just wondering, it is better to name what that cash flow figure you're referring to is, so that even as you talk about discounting, then you're comparing apple for apple and an orange for an orange. But you can think about it as you figure it out. We'll come back to you. I
could share the figures maybe in a bit.
Yeah, please go right ahead. Because I think the revenue we were dealing with yesterday was about 388 billion shillings for the financial year ending March 2025. Diana Gishengo, good morning. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Great. And as you settle in, Dr. Makalimulu, I don't know your thoughts, because at the event I saw you yesterday, one of the members of Parliament was indicating that Safaricom was sold for a song cheaper than it should. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, viewers. Sam, I think, let me pick it from where my colleague has left it. Without being very technical, just to simplify the issue, I totally agree with him when he says that we need to think outside the box in terms of how do we finance our budgets. And the idea of infrastructural bonds the issues of privatization, those are all good ideas. Because they ease the external borrowing and a lot of domestic borrowing. But I think where the problem is, and this is the way I look at it, is that we have a number of fundamental questions which are not being answered.
Yep.
And I wish that Kenyans would get those answers, because I see now we have opened the debate to public participation. The first thing is that there's no harm selling Safaricom's stake. But what Kenyans would want to get is value for that sale, so that we don't seem to be doing it in a very secretive way. The first question is, why are we selling to only one individual? When did we open the process to a competitive process? So that we have many people who will say this is just the way you sell a product, that people will look at Safaricom without all the details we are getting from my colleague, and from the assessment say, this is much I would want to pay for these shares. That is not coming out clear. The second one is, we are being told once the sale takes place, the proceeds will be put into an infrastructural fund. Do we have a legal framework for that fund? Creation of funds at times might not need to come to Parliament, because the Public Finance Management Act allows Treasury to create such funds. Yep. But as at now, we've not seen any arrangement or any regulations saying we have created this fund. So if you sell, I saw the minister the other day saying creation of a fund takes a short time, it can be done even as we go ahead with this. The other question is, the policy document has been sent to us in Parliament to look at it. Assuming that Parliament changes that document, what happens? Because I think when it comes to us, it doesn't mean that we have to agree. Yeah. I know the assumption is that since we have been captured, we'll just stamp it, rubber stamp it. But Sam, I can tell you for sure, I don't think it's automatic that, because we are pushed this thing for public participation. Assuming Kenyans say no, and then we come and agree with the Kenyans, the process corrupts. So I think there are lots of gaps. And when you look at the figures, as we are saying, we are saying we want to, for example, when you say you want to get the dividends in advance, where is Kenya going? We are in this country forever. So these are some of the questions being asked. And what my colleagues were saying yesterday is that I think we really need to make this process very transparent. Yeah. So that at the end of the day, Kenyans will be convinced that we have gotten value for the shares. And that thing is in the past, and I think this, we are dealing with the trustee deficit here. I don't think Kenyans have gotten to a level where some very few of us trust what the government is doing. Very few of us, anything the government is, any move the government initiates, very few Kenyans who trust just by looking at it. So it means the government has to go out of their way to document the processes and the outcomes of what they are doing, at least to build the trust of Kenyans. And those are some of the comments I would want. So even as we get to the details of the numbers, because the figures Kenyans might not pick them from our debate. But we are saying, if they could answer some of those questions to tell us this is the way we want to do things, and we will be convinced with the numbers, when they are worked on by the accountants, by the economists, they will make sense to us. But as at now, and you saw when the CS came to this show, instead of just giving us the information, it becomes a motive. He starts attacking people who are saying it is not working. I don't think that's the way we want to do it. We want to do it, explain to Kenyans. We all know that we have a borrowing, and that debate will come later as we discussed yesterday's report. Yep. But we are saying where we are now, we need soberness, the way we conduct business, and more so matters relating to the economy.
Okay, interesting. Diana, your thoughts, because if anyone ever thought that we have a national mathematics problem, then this is the week that you realize we actually do. Because we surely can't agree on, it's fascinating that yesterday argument between some senior government officials or advisors and some experts online is about percentages. And that is important, yes, because then you're able to determine who is telling the truth, because the cost of borrowing is important in this country for the sake of comparison. But what exactly are we dealing with? Because we also suffer the risk of losing a lot of Kenyans who are not able to follow present value terms, discounted revenues, cash flow. Yeah?
Sam, I don't think we are dealing with a problem of mathematics. Mm-hmm. It is that Kenyans are so troubled by what happened last week that all of us are on analysis mode, trying to get a solution. Mm-hmm. When that happens, it tells you Kenyans can feel something is wrong. At the heart of all this is something is wrong. And if there is all this wealth of knowledge around our shares, listed in our capital markets, imagine the easiest way would have been to open it up for debate. The government would have been richer with all the ideas that you, Sam, have collected over the last 2-3 days. Mm-hmm. Yet they had a longer period. All these arguments are out there that we can deal with the current value, which is suppressed by how much shares are not the in thing. Now bonds and treasury bills are the in thing. When that shifts, the shares will immediately change. But no, this is about, and go back to households. Mm-hmm. The government says we really need to raise a lot of money now. And we are not in a good place. You do that, how do investors respond? Mm-hmm. Somebody who is pressed for money, yep, is therefore high risk, is desperate, they will give you what is available and you will accept immediately. So from our posture, it becomes very wrong. Then secondly, there is the privatization of Kenya Pipeline Corporation. Now we've sold our shares. We've gotten a salary advance in getting the dividends way before. Yep. By doing all that, if this was a household, you wouldn't go back to discuss with your spouse. So the executive had no business just going to sound their grand plan of selling our Safaricom shares, one of our best blue chip companies. And in selling, the stake of Kenya shareholding goes down to a foreign country. Take away even the values of transparency or account. Where is patriotism? We would all have invested. It would have become more competitive. What is the rush? If there is a rush, why not have a national conversation about it? Well,
C.S. Mbadi handled that question, and he said that if we went to the market, we would have had to sell at a discount. On that night, the Safaricom shares closed at, I think, 29 shillings 45 cents. So at a discount would have been way less than that. And now you're saying that we are selling at 34 shillings, 34. Which is a premium.
Yes, it's a premium to foreigners. Very premium. They will earn the future dividends, not us. Mm-hmm. You get? Like, we are so pressed to make the best out of it now. How long have we had those particular set of shares? This is a major company where we must remember its ownership matters a lot to our national fabric. When Gen Z said that there were lots of allegations that Safaricom owed Traxxas, Safaricom is at the heart of fueling the economy, businesses. There is more to it than just raising revenue. There is more to Safaricom than just raising revenue. And that is why you see people this engaged in the sale of Safaricom shares. Does this include Mobitelea? In that area, where are they? in that, and now we will have to subject it because it will be revenue that we will have earned. We will need to, what is this called? The Auditor General will need to come back next year and tell us whether we got value for money. By then, the Auditor General will have gotten all these analyses. Will government meet the threshold of transparency, accountability, and participation of the people in this process?
Okay.
And why did we hear it only at the closing? Why did we hear of the intention? We are not micromanaging government, we are government.
Okay. Now, to your question about Mobitilia, if history serves me right, I think Mobitilia surrendered their stake in Vodafone Kenya, and Vodacom is also buying the remaining stake that was not owned by Vodacom in Vodafone. Am I speaking English?
No.
So Vodafone owns some 39.9% of Safaricom. Diana, are you with me up to that point?
Yes, that is easier mathematics. I can
Yes.
follow.
Now, Vodacom owns 87% of Vodafone Kenya. All right? And now, as part of this entire transaction, they are moving to now own the entire Vodafone Kenya. So Vodacom will own Vodafone Kenya 100%.
Okay.
And as they do that, they are now also buying directly and indirectly 15% stake that government holds. So eventually, ultimately, you have Vodacom owning, through Vodafone Kenya, 55% of Safaricom. 25% will remain with the general public, and 20% will still be held by the government of Kenya. Well, that's as far as we know, based on information we've been able to consume. But Hesbon, so then, can Parliament actually say no to this transaction? And if that happens, how does it affect the market showing of Safaricom in the Kenyan market, but also the showing of Vodacom in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange?
I think, yes, Parliament has powers. It can stop what the government can do as far as what it does with Safaricom shares, because the government interest in Safaricom is one that our Parliament has a voice over. But I want to go back some to what you discussed earlier. What is the true value of Safaricom using the discounted cash flow method? And I think the issue of discounted cash flow for the ordinary citizen is about the entire lifespan of that institution. What would be its earning over that period be worth today? And therefore, there are key metrics that you need to look at when you're using that formula, and it is a standard formula. So whoever comes and uses it, the figures will largely be the same. One, there is what we call free cash flow in a year. What is it? So you need to find out what the free cash flow is, and therefore you must look at the key metrics about the financial figures. And if you look at the 2025 financial year report, you will realize that service revenue for Safaricom was 371 billion, which is about a consistent 10.8% growth year to year. The second aspect of the financial metrics is the total revenue, which was 388.7 billion. Again, that is a year-to-year growth of about 11.2%.
Yeah.
Then earnings before interest and taxes was at about 104 billion. Again, if you look at that, then the net income is at 69.8 billion, which is about 10.8% year-to-year growth. So if you use those metrics, you'll realize that earnings per share is about 1.74. So those are those key metrics that you'll factor in when you are doing...
1.7?
1.74.
Shillings.
Shillings.
Okay.
Now, when you come now to what we call the free cash flow estimation, now here you're looking at what is Safaricom's earnings before interest and taxes, which suggests that it ranges between 70 to 80 billion annually. And that is after you've dealt with the issues of investment in capex and working capital adjustments. So it's important to get that metrics right.
Right.
Then the third issue is about growth assumptions, because you factor in growth assumptions. One is about the core business that Safaricom runs, which has M-Pesa, data, and those enterprise services. It consistently gets us 8 to 10% in terms of annual growth. So those are key metrics. Then the expansion to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That has given Safaricom higher returns that it's getting in Kenya, with an average of 15 to 20%. Now, that is the numbers you need to put together, and you'll have, if you add about 15 to 20 and 8 to 10%, you are going to arrive at about an average of 8% growth over the number of years, whether it is 5 or 10 years. Now, these are the metrics that feed into the valuation. Then now you go to a very key metric called discount rate. Now, here you look at the cost of equity. That investor who has put his money in Safaricom, what is the expected return? It's about 15%. And now that is what the investor is ready to take for the investment in Safaricom. Now, what is the cost of debt? Because at one point in time, Safaricom may go to borrow to invest.
Yep.
It spends about 10% to get that kind of support. So the weighted average cost of capital, which is both what you borrowed and what is equity, is about 12 to 13%. These are key metrics that you feed in when you are valuing the entity. Then the final parameter is about terminal value. And terminal value is about what is the overall growth within the entire lifespan of that entity. Kenya, on average, has a growth of GDP. Sometimes it goes as high as 5%. Sometimes it comes as low as even 3%. So if you do an average, to be conservative, you will work with between 3 to 4%. Now, if you were to put all this together, then you will be able to arrive at a value that I was mentioning of 1.12%. The metrics are there. So that then gives you what I would call the intrinsic value.
Intrinsic value.
Yes. That is, it's different from the market value.
Sure.
The market value could be what you can go to the market today and buy shares. But remember, what Safaricom is trading publicly is just 25%.
Yeah.
So the 75% is at the back end. And that in itself gives a risk in terms of, could it be possible that there could be more in terms of what the value could be? There could be a lot of control in decision making that is at the back end that is not open to the ordinary trader here. Yes, our NSE is a bit open. But again, who is the dominant player there? It is Safaricom.
Yeah.
So the risk of distortion is high. But now coming back to the real conversation, what is Safaricom, what is Kenya giving up in this transaction?
We'll get to that. I just wanted us to tie that point of valuation of the shares.
Yes.
Because yesterday we were asking the same question, whether it is fair to assess this proposed sale using the market price of what is on offer, which you're saying is 25% trading at the NSE. It sounds like you suggest it's not fair. There has to be a deeper analysis beyond just the market price.
Yes, that is why there has to be a deeper analysis looking at other factors, and that's why there must be probably some element of conversations. Could be that is why somebody is talking of getting some premium and selling at 34, over and above the market rate. But the conversation needs to be structured. So when you say we've agreed on a price of 34, the market is 28, 29. Yeah. What is the basis? What is the conversation you held that has led to that percentage? Could it have been more? Okay. For example.
Finally, between total revenue and cash flow analysis, what is the more logical figure to use in assessing the value of a share?
I think the most widely accepted is a discounted cash flow method. Cash flow. It's the best.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right.
Because revenues could shift year in, year out, and of course there are certain metrics that you have to put in. Yeah. The issue of the growth of an economy, you cannot ignore. Right.
Yeah. And of course it's important to know that revenue may not necessarily be cash received. Yeah. It could be you've made a sale, you've sold airtime worth 1 million shillings, but money has not necessarily been received. But when you're talking about cash flow, you're talking about real money that has been received and money that has been paid out. Yeah. And whatever you find now becomes your figure. We continue with this conversation and hopefully we have better clarity as we move forward. But of course, yesterday, there was this report, you might have seen it, the People's Audit that Oko Uchumi was able to publish under the leadership of this Institute of Social Accountability. It talks about from hustle to hardship, bad governance, theft, corruption, state capture, conflict of interest as some of the issues. And they are talking about exposing the cost of Kenya's economic betrayal. And quite detailed that you would want to have a read. This, they're saying, are the citizens auditing the status of the economy, the implementation of different elements of the constitution, dealing with some of the challenges that the country faces. We'll talk about a bit of that after the break. Stay tuned.